Stop scrolling and listen to today's Arcturian Council message. Arcturian Council, you must listen to this alone. Starseed, a direct transmission for the ones who remember. Stop everything right now. This is not background noise, this is not spiritual entertainment, and this is not appearing in your awareness by coincidence. The Arcturian Council begins with a shock to your system because your soul asked for clarity even if your conscious mind forgot. Something inside you has been restless, observant, and quietly alarmed, sensing that the world you once understood no longer fits. Timelines are compressing, masks are slipping, and truth is becoming unavoidable. You may have felt sudden fatigue, emotional surges, or the strange feeling of being out of phase with others. That is not weakness, it is sensitivity to incoming frequencies. The Council states clearly, those who resonate now are anchors, not observers. You are here because your field can hold this information without distortion. Let the words land slowly. Do not multitask. Do not share this space yet. This message is calibrated for solitary reception so your own inner signal can rise without interference. If your heart is pounding or your breath changed, that is confirmation. Backhand index pointing right to claim this opening transmission, type, I am listening. The Arcturian Council speaks of a threshold that many sense but few can articulate. Humanity is not approaching change, it is already inside it. The confusion you see in institutions, relationships, and personal identity is the external mirror of an internal recalibration. Old agreements made from survival consciousness are dissolving, and this can feel like loss even when it is liberation. You may notice people reacting more intensely, clinging harder to labels, or rejecting anything that threatens their constructed certainty. This is not your responsibility to fix. Your role is to remain coherent. The Council emphasizes that coherence does not mean perfection or constant peace, it means honesty with your own energy. When you suppress your knowing to keep others comfortable, your body absorbs the conflict. This is why many starseeds experience sudden aches, sleep disturbances, or vivid dreams. Your system is learning to stop translating truth into tension. Listen closely, you are not here to save everyone, but your presence stabilizes more than you realize. Backhand index pointing right to anchor this understanding, type, I remain coherent. You may have wondered why solitude has become both necessary and uncomfortable. The Council confirms this is intentional. Isolation, whether chosen or circumstantial, strips away borrowed identities and forces communion with your authentic frequency. This is why distractions feel hollow lately. Activities that once entertained now feel draining, and conversations that lack depth exhaust you. This is not judgment, it is resonance refinement. Your nervous system is learning to discern what feeds you and what fragments you. The Council warns against mistaking this phase for depression or failure. It is initiation through subtraction. What remains after the noise falls away is what you are meant to build from. Do not rush to refill the silence. Let it teach you. When you sit alone and feel discomfort, breathe into it instead of escaping. There is encoded memory surfacing, ancient, calm, and unhurried. This is the part of you that remembers why you came. Backhand index pointing right to accept this phase, type, I honor the silence. The Arcturian Council now addresses fear, not as an enemy, but as a signal. Fear spikes when the mind detects the loss of familiar reference points. As structures dissolve, the ego panics because it equates predictability with safety. Yet the soul knows that stagnation is the true danger. You may feel fear without a clear source, a low hum of anxiety beneath normal routines. This does not mean something is wrong, it means your perception is widening faster than your language can keep up. The Council advises against dramatizing these sensations or suppressing them. Instead, name them gently. When fear arises, say internally, something new is integrating. This reframes the experience and prevents spiral. Remember, panic shortens perception, while curiosity expands it. You are learning to stay present during uncertainty, a skill that will soon become essential for leadership in chaotic environments. Backhand index pointing right to transmute fear into awareness. Type, I choose curiosity. At this stage, the Council speaks directly to your sense of purpose. Many starseeds were taught to expect a dramatic mission, a singular moment of recognition. This expectation has caused unnecessary disappointment. The truth is quieter and more demanding. Your purpose unfolds through consistency, not spectacle. Every time you respond rather than react, every time you speak truth without aggression, you alter probability fields. The Council explains that small, repeated acts of integrity create resonance pathways others subconsciously follow. You may never be thanked or even noticed, yet your influence accumulates. Release the need for external validation. The craving to be seen often masks the fear of insignificance, but significance is not measured in attention, it is measured in alignment. When you act from alignment, the universe responds with subtle but undeniable support. Backhand index pointing right to affirm your role. Type, my presence matters. Relationships are now under intense review. The Council notes that bonds formed through trauma, obligation, or fear cannot survive the frequencies currently entering the planet. This may manifest as sudden distance, conflict, or an unexplainable lack of resonance with people you once felt close to. Grieve without self-blame. Evolution requires shedding skins that once protected you. Staying loyal to outdated dynamics out of guilt creates energetic debt. The Council encourages compassionate honesty, first with yourself, then with others when appropriate. You are not abandoning anyone by growing, you are modeling permission. Some will follow later, some will not, and that is not a failure of love. Love does not mean proximity, it means truth without control. Backhand index pointing right to release with grace. Type, I allow natural separation. The Arcturian Council shifts to the body, reminding you that it is not a burden but a translator. Physical symptoms often appear when energy moves faster than belief systems. Head pressure, ringing ears, heart flutters, and waves of exhaustion are common during upgrades. Resist the urge to immediately pathologize every sensation, but also do not ignore genuine needs. Balance discernment with intuition. Hydration, rest, and time in nature are not cliches, they are stabilizers for high-frequency integration. Your body is learning new rhythms, and patience accelerates adaptation. Speak to your body as an ally, not an obstacle. It listens more than you think. Backhand index pointing right to support your vessel. Type, I listen to my body. Now the Council addresses doubt. Doubt often appears right before clarity, acting as a final gatekeeper. You may question your perceptions, wonder if you imagined your experiences, or compare yourself harshly to others. This is the mind's attempt to regain control. Remember, certainty is not required for alignment, commitment is. You do not need all the answers to take the next honest step. The Council suggests reducing comparison, especially with curated online identities that distort reality. Your path is not meant to be replicated. Trust grows through action, not rumination. When you act in accordance with your inner signal, evidence follows. Backhand index pointing right to move despite doubt. Type, I trust my steps. The Council emphasizes discernment in information consumption. Not every spiritual message is meant for you, and overconsumption can create confusion rather than clarity. Your nervous system needs integration time. If something creates urgency, fear, or superiority, pause. True guidance feels steady, even when it challenges you. You are encouraged to return to your own inner reference point regularly. Silence is not emptiness, it is calibration. When you feel overwhelmed, step back. You are not missing anything essential by resting. The most important updates arrive when you are still enough to receive them. Backhand index pointing right to reclaim discernment. Type, I choose clarity. Finally, for this segment, the Arcturian Council offers reassurance. You are not failing the process is reshaping you. Progress is not linear, and regression is often integration in disguise. Be gentle with your expectations. The fact that you are questioning, feeling, and listening means you are engaged. Many have opted out unconsciously, you have not. Stand steady. More will be revealed when your system is ready, not when impatience demands it. This message will continue, but for now, let these frequencies settle. Breathe. You are exactly where you need to be. Backhand index pointing right to seal this transmission. Type, I receive. The Arcturian Council now draws your attention to time itself, because many of you have felt it behaving strangely. Days stretch and collapse, memories blur, and future possibilities feel closer than the past. This is not imagination. Linear time is loosening its grip as collective consciousness shifts toward multidimensional awareness. You may notice that intentions manifest faster, while unresolved emotions surface without warning. Time responds to coherence, not effort. When your inner state aligns with your actions, reality reorganizes quickly. When there is inner conflict, delays appear as teachers, not punishments. The Council urges you to stop measuring your worth by productivity or speed. Those metrics belong to a collapsing paradigm. Instead, notice synchronicities, sudden insights, and the way answers arrive without strain. These are indicators that you are learning to move with time rather than against it. Patience is no longer passive waiting, it is active trust in unseen orchestration. Backhand index pointing right to align with higher timing. Type, I trust divine timing. Attention is now placed on your emotional body, which has been working overtime. Many starseeds learned early to suppress emotion to remain functional or strong. That survival strategy is no longer sustainable. Emotions are not obstacles to enlightenment, they are data streams. Each feeling carries information about alignment or distortion. When ignored, emotions manifest physically or energetically as stagnation. When acknowledged without judgment, they transmute naturally. The Council emphasizes that emotional literacy is a leadership skill in the coming era. Being able to feel deeply without becoming reactive is a form of mastery. You are allowed to feel sadness without despair, anger without violence, joy without guilt. Let emotions move through you like weather, not define you as climate. This fluidity restores power you did not realize you had given away. Backhand index pointing right to honor emotional truth. Type, I allow myself to feel. The Arcturian Council now addresses the concept of control. Many of your anxieties stem from attempting to manage outcomes rather than align with intention. Control is rooted in fear of unpredictability. Yet unpredictability is where evolution hides. When you release rigid expectations, intelligence larger than the mind can operate. This does not mean becoming passive or indifferent, it means acting from clarity rather than compulsion. Notice where you grip too tightly: plans, identities, relationships, or narratives about how things should unfold. These grips drain energy. When released, that energy becomes available for creativity and insight. The Council reminds you, surrender is not collapse, it is strategic openness. Backhand index pointing right to release unnecessary control. Type, I choose surrender. Now the Council speaks to your inner voice. Many of you hear it clearly but dismiss it because it does not shout. Intuition rarely competes with fear or logic in volume, it communicates through calm certainty. When ignored repeatedly, it grows quiet, not to punish you, but to conserve energy. Rebuilding trust with your intuition requires small acts of listening followed by action. Even when the guidance seems mundane, honor it. The muscle strengthens through use. Over time, intuition becomes louder not in sound, but in consequence. Life flows more smoothly, resistance decreases, and choices feel lighter. This is not magic, it is alignment in motion. Backhand index pointing right to strengthen intuition. Type, I listen inward. The Arcturian Council turns now to identity. Many labels you carry, roles, diagnoses, beliefs, were once helpful frameworks, but some have become cages. Identity should be a lens, not a prison. You are allowed to outgrow definitions without betraying your past. When you cling to who you were, you limit who you can become. This shedding can feel disorienting, as if the ground beneath you is shifting. That sensation signals expansion, not loss. The Council advises curiosity over defense. Ask, who am I becoming, rather than, what am I losing? The answer unfolds gradually through experience. Backhand index pointing right to embrace evolution. Type, I allow myself to change. Energy exchange is now highlighted. Every interaction leaves a residue, subtle but cumulative. You may feel drained after certain conversations or inexplicably energized after moments of silence. This is awareness sharpening. You are learning to sense compatibility beyond words. The Council encourages conscious boundaries, not walls, but filters. You do not owe access to everyone. Choosing where you place your attention is an act of self-respect. When you protect your energy, you increase your capacity to serve meaningfully. Remember, depletion is not proof of virtue. Sustainable presence requires discernment. Backhand index pointing right to protect your energy, type, I honor my boundaries. The Council now addresses collective fear narratives. Media, social structures, and inherited beliefs often amplify threat to maintain attention and compliance. You are not required to absorb these frequencies to be informed. Awareness does not require immersion. Choose how deeply you engage. When fear-based narratives trigger you, pause and ground. Ask whether the information expands understanding or contracts it. Your nervous system is a compass. The Council reminds you that calm perception is revolutionary in a culture addicted to outrage. Backhand index pointing right to remain sovereign, type, I choose calm awareness. Creativity is now emphasized as a stabilizing force. Creation aligns you with source energy regardless of form, writing, building, speaking, imagining. Creativity is not reserved for artists, it is a state of engagement with life. When you create, you step out of victim consciousness and into participation. The Council notes that many starseeds delay creative expression waiting for permission or perfection. Begin where you are. Creation clarifies direction more effectively than planning alone. Backhand index pointing right to activate creative flow, type, I allow myself to create. The Arcturian Council speaks of service, clarifying misconceptions. Service is not self-sacrifice or exhaustion. True service arises from overflow, not depletion. When you are aligned, your presence alone uplifts others without effort. This is why self-care is not selfish, it is foundational. You are not meant to burn yourself out for the collective. You are meant to stabilize a frequency others can attune to when ready. Backhand index pointing right to redefine service, type, I serve from wholeness. As this section closes, the Council offers grounding. Integration requires pauses. Do not rush to consume the next message or seek constant stimulation. Let these frequencies settle into your daily life. Notice subtle shifts in perception, patience, and choice. Integration often feels ordinary until you look back and realize how much has changed. Trust the process unfolding within you. This transmission continues, but for now, breathe deeply and remain present. Backhand index pointing right to integrate this phase, type, I am integrating. The Arcturian Council now draws attention to the unseen agreements you have made with yourself across lifetimes. Many of you carry vows of silence, sacrifice, or invisibility that once served survival but now restrict expression. These agreements are not punishments, they were strategies. However, strategies expire. You may notice hesitation when speaking your truth, a reflex to minimize your needs, or a discomfort with being witnessed. This is the echo of those old vows. The Council clarifies that revocation does not require ceremony or struggle, only conscious acknowledgement. When you notice yourself shrinking, pause and gently choose expansion instead. This choice, repeated, rewrites the agreement at the energetic level. You are allowed to take up space without justification. Presence is not arrogance, it is authenticity. As you honor this, others receive permission to do the same, even if they never articulate it. Backhand index pointing right to release old vows, type, I revoke outdated agreements. Now the Council speaks of memory, specifically, cellular memory. Your body remembers experiences your conscious mind cannot access, including ancestral trauma and collective imprints. This is why certain reactions feel disproportionate to present circumstances. Healing does not require reliving the past, it requires safety in the present. When you create internal safety through breath, grounding, and compassion, stored memory releases naturally. The Council emphasizes that you are not broken for carrying this memory, you are capable. Many of you volunteered to transmute dense patterns simply by living with awareness. Be patient with sudden emotional waves or fatigue, they are signs of release, not regression. Each moment of self-kindness accelerates this process. Backhand index pointing right to support cellular healing, type, I create safety within. The Arcturian Council now addresses authority. Many starseeds struggle with external authority due to lifetimes of misuse and control. This can manifest as resistance, distrust, or overcompliance. Neither extreme is balanced. True sovereignty arises when inner authority is restored. This means listening to guidance, evaluating information, and choosing consciously rather than reacting. You do not need to rebel to be free, nor submit to be safe. As you cultivate inner authority, external structures lose their power to destabilize you. Decisions become clearer, boundaries firmer, and self-respect non-negotiable. This recalibration may initially feel uncomfortable, especially in environments accustomed to your silence. Stay steady. Backhand index pointing right to reclaim sovereignty, type, I stand in my authority. Attention now shifts to communication. Words carry frequency beyond meaning. When spoken from alignment, they soothe, clarify, and connect. When spoken from fear, they fragment. You may notice that conversations feel heavier or lighter depending on your inner state. This is mastery emerging. The Council encourages intentional speech, pausing before responding, feeling the body's response to words before releasing them. Silence, too, is communication. You are not obligated to fill space with explanations. Choose clarity over defense. Over time, your voice becomes a tuning fork others subconsciously adjust to. Backhand index pointing right to speak with alignment, type, I choose conscious communication. The Council now highlights rest as an act of intelligence. In a culture that glorifies constant output, rest is often framed as laziness or avoidance. This belief is deeply ingrained and energetically damaging. Integration requires downtime. Without rest, insights cannot anchor into form. You may feel called to sleep more, withdraw socially, or slow routines. Honor this call. Rest does not delay progress, it consolidates it. When rested, perception sharpens and effort decreases. Trust that pauses are productive even when they appear empty. Backhand index pointing right to honor rest, type, I allow myself to pause. Now the Arcturian Council speaks of trust, not blind trust in others, but earned trust in yourself. Many of you have learned to doubt your perceptions due to invalidation or gaslighting, both personal and systemic. Rebuilding self-trust is a gradual process. Begin by noticing when your intuition was correct, even in small ways. Acknowledge these moments internally. This reinforcement rebuilds confidence at the nervous system level. Over time, hesitation fades and decisiveness grows. You become less influenced by external noise and more guided by inner clarity. Backhand index pointing right to rebuild self-trust. Type, I trust myself. The council now addresses abundance. Abundance is not limited to material wealth, it includes time, energy, support, and opportunity. Scarcity consciousness narrows perception, making abundance invisible even when present. As you shift into alignment, notice subtle forms of support appearing, unexpected help, timely insights, or resources arriving with ease. Gratitude is not politeness, it is calibration. When you acknowledge abundance, you amplify it. This does not require denial of challenges, only recognition of support alongside them. Backhand index pointing right to align with abundance. Type, I recognize support. The Arcturian Council speaks now of community. True community is resonance-based, not obligation-based. As you change, your circle may shift. This can feel lonely before it feels liberating. Trust that alignment attracts connection organically. Forced belonging drains energy and distorts identity. When you honor authenticity, compatible connections emerge naturally, often unexpectedly. Quality replaces quantity. Depth replaces performance. Allow this refinement without rushing to replace what has ended. Backhand index pointing right to allow aligned connection. Type, I trust natural community. The Council turns attention to forgiveness, clarifying that forgiveness is not excusing harm or forgetting boundaries. It is releasing yourself from carrying unresolved emotional weight. Forgiveness is an internal process that restores energy. You may forgive someone and still choose distance. Both can coexist. When you release resentment, clarity increases and life force returns. Forgiveness is a gift to your nervous system, not a favor to others. Backhand index pointing right to free your energy. Type, I release what weighs me down. As this segment concludes, the Arcturian Council offers reassurance once more. You are navigating complex terrain with increasing awareness. Missteps do not negate progress, they inform it. Be gentle with yourself as you integrate these layers. Transformation is cumulative, not instantaneous. You are not alone in this process, even when it feels solitary. More will unfold in the next transmission. For now, remain present, grounded, and open. Backhand index pointing right to seal this phase. Type, I remain open. The Arcturian Council now invites you to examine resistance, not as failure, but as feedback. Resistance often appears when growth challenges comfort, even if that comfort is painful. You may notice procrastination, irritation, or sudden distractions arising precisely when you move toward alignment. This is not sabotage, it is the nervous system checking for safety. Rather than forcing your way through, pause and ask what part of you feels threatened. Offer reassurance instead of pressure. When resistance is met with compassion, it softens and reveals its message. Often, beneath resistance is unacknowledged fear of visibility, responsibility, or change. The Council emphasizes that moving slowly with awareness is more effective than rushing with tension. Integration happens when all parts feel included. Backhand index pointing right to work gently with resistance. Type, I listen to all parts of me. Attention now turns to expectation versus presence. Many of you anticipate a future moment when everything will click and life will finally feel complete. While growth does bring clarity, waiting for arrival can disconnect you from the power of now. The Council reminds you that presence is not a stepping stone, it is the destination repeatedly rediscovered. When you fully inhabit the present, you access resources unavailable through anticipation alone. Peace, insight, and creativity emerge here, not later. Notice when your mind drifts toward imagined futures or rewritten pasts. Gently return to sensation, breath, and immediate experience. Mastery of presence does not eliminate goals, it grounds them in reality. Backhand index pointing right to anchor in now, type, I return to presence. The Arcturian Council now speaks of humility, not as self-minimization, but as openness to learning. True humility recognizes that wisdom is dynamic, not owned. You may outgrow beliefs you once defended passionately. This is not inconsistency, it is evolution. Allow yourself to update perspectives without shame. Rigidity often masks fear of being wrong, yet growth requires flexibility. The Council encourages curiosity over certainty. When you admit you do not know, new understanding becomes possible. This openness attracts guidance and reduces conflict, both internal and external. Backhand index pointing right to embody humility, type, I remain open to learning. Now the Council addresses joy. Joy is often postponed until conditions improve, yet joy itself improves conditions. This does not mean denying hardship, it means allowing light alongside difficulty. Simple pleasures, laughter, beauty, creativity, are not distractions from purpose, they are nourishment. Joy recalibrates the nervous system and increases resilience. When you permit joy without guilt, you stabilize higher frequencies more easily. The Council reminds you that joy is a signal of alignment, not irresponsibility. Seek it intentionally, even briefly. Backhand index pointing right to welcome joy, type, I allow joy now. As this section closes, the Arcturian Council invites reflection rather than action. Let the insights from these transmissions settle without immediate analysis. Integration often occurs beneath conscious awareness. You may notice subtle shifts in patience, perception, or self-talk in the coming days. Trust these changes. You are not required to be constantly improving, being present and honest is enough. This journey unfolds through cycles of effort and rest, insight and embodiment. Honor where you are. More will come when readiness aligns with timing. Backhand index pointing right to complete this segment, type, I trust the unfolding. The Arcturian Council now speaks directly to the moment you are in, because many of you feel suspended between worlds. The old version of life no longer satisfies, yet the new has not fully formed. This in-between state can feel unsettling, even lonely, as familiar markers of success, belonging, and certainty dissolve. The Council emphasizes that this liminal space is not a mistake, it is a gestation chamber. Nothing is wrong because nothing is finished. Seeds do not question the darkness of soil, they respond to it by growing. When impatience arises, remember that clarity often comes after endurance, not before. You are learning to trust processes that cannot be rushed or controlled. This space strengthens intuition, resilience, and inner authority. Remain here without self-judgment. What is forming within you requires stillness to stabilize. Backhand index pointing right to honor this transition. Type, I trust the in-between. Now the council addresses grief, which many of you carry quietly. This grief is not only personal, it is collective and planetary. You may mourn lost versions of yourself, broken dreams, or a world that feels increasingly unfamiliar. Suppressing this grief creates heaviness, while allowing it creates movement. Grief is love with nowhere to go, and when acknowledged, it transforms into wisdom and compassion. The council invites you to grieve consciously, without dramatizing or minimizing. Let tears come if they need to. Let silence hold what words cannot. Grief does not lower your frequency, avoidance does. When honored, grief clears space for deeper presence and authentic joy. Backhand index pointing right to allow healing grief. Type, I allow myself to grieve. The Arcturian Council now speaks of courage, redefining it beyond dramatic acts. Courage is choosing honesty when silence feels safer. Courage is resting when productivity is praised. Courage is changing direction without guarantees. You may underestimate your bravery because it does not resemble the stories you were taught. Yet every time you listen to your inner truth despite discomfort, you demonstrate mastery. The council notes that fear does not disappear as you evolve, your relationship to it changes. Fear becomes a signal, not a stop sign. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is movement with awareness. Backhand index pointing right to embody courage. Type, I move with courage. Attention now turns to alignment in daily life. Spiritual growth is not measured only in meditation or insight, but in mundane choices, how you speak to yourself, how you treat your body, how you respond under stress. The council emphasizes that enlightenment is practical. When your actions match your values, energy flows with less resistance. Notice where you compromise yourself for convenience or approval. These moments are opportunities, not failures. Small adjustments compound into profound shifts. Alignment is built through consistency, not perfection. Backhand index pointing right to choose daily alignment. Type, I live my truth daily. As this portion of the transmission concludes, the Arcturian Council offers grounding once more. You have received layered information meant to integrate gradually. Do not rush to analyze or explain it to others. Let it settle into your nervous system, your choices, and your rhythms. True understanding reveals itself through lived experience. You are not behind, and you are not alone, even when the path feels solitary. The signal continues, but for now, rest in what has been received. Backhand index pointing right to seal this transmission. Type, I am grounded. The Arcturian Council now addresses your perception of reality itself, because many of you have begun to sense that what you see is only a surface layer. You may notice patterns repeating, people playing familiar roles, or situations unfolding with symbolic precision. This is not paranoia, it is pattern recognition awakening. Reality communicates through cycles, mirrors, and synchronicities once awareness sharpens. The council cautions against obsession or overinterpretation. Awareness is meant to empower, not overwhelm. Observe without clinging. When you witness patterns calmly, you gain choice instead of compulsion. This expanded perception allows you to respond creatively rather than react habitually. You are learning to read reality as information, not threat. Backhand index pointing right to stabilize expanded awareness. Type, I observe with clarity. Now the Council speaks of self-compassion, which many starseeds struggle to embody despite offering it freely to others. You may hold yourself to impossible standards, judging pauses as failures and rest as weakness. This inner harshness fragments energy. Compassion is not indulgence, it is regulation. When you meet yourself kindly, your nervous system relaxes, allowing insight and resilience to surface naturally. The Council reminds you that growth flourishes in safety, not punishment. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you deeply respect. This shift changes everything quietly but permanently. Backhand index pointing right to practice self-compassion. Type, I treat myself with kindness. The Arcturian Council now highlights patience as an advanced form of intelligence. Patience is not passive tolerance, it is the capacity to remain present without forcing outcomes. In a world conditioned for immediacy, patience becomes radical. You may feel pressure to decide, act, or resolve prematurely. Resist this pressure when clarity has not arrived. Waiting from alignment feels different than waiting from fear. The Council encourages you to notice the quality of your waiting. Calm waiting attracts insight, anxious waiting repels it. Patience allows unseen variables to align in your favor. Backhand index pointing right to embody patience. Type, I wait with trust. Attention now turns to humility in action. You may discover that wisdom expresses itself through simplicity rather than complexity. Grand explanations are not always necessary, sometimes presence is enough. The Council advises releasing the need to convince or awaken others. Truth does not require force. When you live aligned, your life becomes the message. This quiet influence reaches further than argument ever could. Allow your actions to speak while your ego rests. Backhand index pointing right to lead through example. Type, I live the message. As this segment nears completion, the Arcturian Council offers a reminder: you are not meant to carry everything alone. Even solitary paths include unseen support. Guidance arrives through intuition, chance encounters, and inner knowing when you are receptive. Trust that support appears in forms you may not expect. Release the belief that struggle equals worthiness. Ease is allowed. As you soften into trust, life responds with subtle cooperation. Remain open, grounded, and receptive. Backhand index pointing right to receive support. Type, I allow support. The Arcturian Council now delivers a second shock, a reactivation meant to break complacency. Hear this clearly: many of you are still waiting for permission to fully arrive in your life. You sense your capacity, your insight, your depth, yet you hover at the edge, holding back as if someone will one day confirm that it is finally safe to be all of you. That moment is not coming. This is the shock. No external authority will initiate you. No collective event will suddenly grant you confidence. The hesitation you feel is not intuition, it is conditioning. You were trained to associate visibility with danger and power with punishment. That era is ending. Remaining half-present now creates more suffering than stepping forward ever will. The Council emphasizes that withholding yourself fractures your energy field, while embodiment stabilizes it. You do not need to become louder, better, or more spiritual. You need to become honest. Honest about your capacity. Honest about your boundaries. Honest about your desire to live awake rather than small. The world does not need another silent observer. It needs grounded witnesses who are willing to stand in their frequency without apology. This is not about dominance, it is about occupancy. Occupy your life fully, or it will feel like it belongs to someone else. Backhand index pointing right to step fully into embodiment. Type, I arrive fully now. The Arcturian Council now speaks of responsibility, not the burdened kind you were taught, but energetic responsibility. Everything you tolerate trains your nervous system to believe it is acceptable. This includes self-talk, environments, relationships, and habits that subtly drain you. Many starseeds confuse tolerance with compassion, but they are not the same. Compassion sees clearly, tolerance numbs. When you tolerate misalignment, your energy leaks. Over time, this creates exhaustion that no amount of rest can fix. The Council urges you to perform a quiet audit of your life, not with judgment, but with clarity. Ask where you consistently override your own signals. Ask where you say yes to avoid discomfort or no to avoid responsibility. Responsibility, in this context, means responding to truth rather than reacting to fear. As you refine this skill, life simplifies. Decisions become cleaner. Drama reduces. You feel less pulled in opposing directions. This is not because life becomes easier, but because you become congruent. Congruence is power without force. Backhand index pointing right to reclaim energetic responsibility. Type, I choose alignment over tolerance. The Council now addresses the fear of loss that keeps many of you frozen. You may fear losing relationships, identity, security, or relevance if you change too much or too fast. Understand this: what is truly aligned cannot be lost, only transformed. What leaves when you grow was already incompatible with who you are becoming. Clinging delays the inevitable and intensifies the pain. The Council does not ask you to detach coldly, but to release consciously. Let transitions complete rather than dragging them out through hope or avoidance. Completion creates clean space. Incomplete endings create energetic noise. You are allowed to mourn what ends while still moving forward. Forward motion does not erase love, it refines it. As you practice letting go without self-betrayal, trust deepens. You realize you can survive change, and more than that, you can thrive within it. Backhand index pointing right to release fear of loss. Type, I trust what leaves and what stays. Now the Arcturian Council speaks of mastery, and this may surprise you. Mastery is not found in constant expansion, but in stabilization. Many of you chase new insights, activations, and understandings without fully integrating what you already know. This creates a sense of perpetual seeking that never resolves. The Council invites you to slow the intake and deepen the embodiment. How do you treat yourself when no one is watching? How do you respond when plans dissolve? How do you hold discomfort without story? These are the true indicators of mastery. When you stabilize, others feel safe around you without knowing why. Your presence regulates space. This is subtle, powerful, and desperately needed. You do not need to teach, preach, or perform. Being integrated is enough. Integration is the quiet revolution. Backhand index pointing right to anchor mastery. Type, I embody what I know. The Arcturian Council concludes this transmission with a final reminder meant to stay with you long after these words fade. You are not here to escape humanity, you are here to inhabit it consciously. Awakening is not departure, it is deeper arrival. Every mundane moment is an opportunity to practice awareness, integrity, and presence. You are allowed to live a grounded, ordinary life infused with extraordinary clarity. Stop waiting for a future version of yourself to begin. This is the version. Right here. Right now. Trust that what you have received will unfold through action, rest, choice, and silence in perfect measure. This transmission ends, but the relationship does not. Listen inward. You already know the way forward. Backhand index pointing right to complete and claim this message. Type, I remember who I am.